control the kitchen chaos and streamline your back-of-house operations with Restaurant Technologies. Restaurant Technologies' Total Oil Management Solution is the end-to-end automated oil management system that delivers, filters, monitors, and recycles your cooking oil, taking the dirtiest job out of the kitchen and lets your employees focus on more important tasks. The Total Oil Management Solution helps prevent the burns, spills, slips, and falls that come with traditional oil management. Restaurant Technologies gives you and your employees peace of mind among the chaos of a commercial kitchen and can maximize efficiency for your business. And no upfront cost. Learn more about Restaurant Technologies and all the solutions they offer by visiting rti-inc.com or call 888-796-4997.
Hello, and welcome to Menu Talk. I'm Pat Cobe, Senior Editor of Restaurant Business, covering menu and food and drink. And I'm here with
Bret Thorn, Senior Food and Beverage Editor of Nation's Restaurant News and Restaurant Hospitality. How you doing, Pat?
I'm doing well, except my cat is meowing in the background.
You have a cat visiting. What is the cat's name?
Barclay.
Barkley.
Yeah.
And the cat does bark a little bit, it sounds like. Or at least,
yeah, he
does what cats...
Making a bit of noise, but I think he's leaving now. So what have you been up to, Bret? Have you been eating and drinking?
Sure. I've also been convalescing a little bit. I somehow hurt my foot while I was sitting. Because, as we get older, sometimes things just fall apart. So I was just sitting on a bench and I stood up, and for some reason, the way I had angled my foot meant that my left foot hurt. And that happens periodically. And I thought, I'll just walk it off and it'll be fine, but it wasn't fine. So, then I did the stupid thing of asking the internet what might be wrong. Never do that because everything could be cancer. But, usually it's not.
Right.
In this case, it wasn't cancer, but the internet said probably you broke your foot, a stress fracture, which can happen at any time. So I went to the emergency room, and my foot is not broken. It's,
That's good news.
It's not sprained. It's just irritated. So, but I was laid up for a couple of days, and so I have to, get my steps back in and all of that. But I have managed to get out a little bit. It was a friend's birthday in the suburbs of Boston this weekend. So I went up to Boston and hung out with my friends there. And one of our other friends made dinner. And I think the dinner speaks to so many trends about the way that people eat that I'd like to share it with you.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That sounds fascinating.
So, and we're not like young, hip millennials or Gen Z. We're all like old Gen X. We are like on the border of the baby boom. We're advanced in our age, but we all sat around, and my friend Michael cut up a bunch of vegetables. We had crudité, and he made hummus and pesto and muhammara, which is that Middle Eastern red pepper paste. Delicious. He's a really good cook. Wonderful job. He also sliced up very thinly some Atlantic salmon and some local Boston area bluefin tuna, which he served with soy sauce and wasabi. And then he grilled some scallops and also made some mapo tofu. And we just sat around the kitchen table and ate and drank and talked and, picked. And I think the only utensils we had were chopsticks, maybe.
Nice.
And, that's how I think so many people eat these days. They don't just sit down and have, 3 courses and have a knife and fork and all of that, It was just a very casual way of eating. I mean, it kind of, now that I described it, it kind of sounds like, what do they call it? A girl dinner. And, there were women as well as men at this party. I don't know if any of them would be called girls, since none of them are under 50. So I don't know. You could do that. And then the friend I stayed with while I was in Boston, these are all old college friends of mine, we went to a Chinese restaurant called Grandma's Kitchen in Newton, Mass. And Grandma's Kitchen it's Taiwanese, actually. And we had some popcorn chicken and some Szechuan wontons, salt and pepper pork, and some broccoli with pork. It was all very lovely. But they asked, how spicy do you want it? And my spice threshold is high, but my friend said medium and there's no you shouldn't have food spicier than the tolerance of the lowest person with the lowest tolerance, that person's tolerance.
Exactly. Yeah.
Meat. And it was so spicy.
Wow.
That, I had to sort of take a break and rest and, let my nose run a little bit. And this is Boston. Boston is not a spicy city. In fact, it's probably the least spiciest city in the Northeast.
Yeah.
So
surprising. But I think everyone is spicing like more for Gen Z than for baby boomers and Gen X at this point.
I think that's true. Although I don't know that, this was really spicy. So good for them. And we certainly enjoyed the meal, and the service was great and friendly, and, all that was good. And then for breakfast later on in my own neighborhood, I just wanted like a breakfast, a sort of traditional mainstream American breakfast, sausage, eggs, home fries, that sort of thing, which can be hard to find in my largely Eastern European neighborhood in Brooklyn, as you said, Bay. So, I asked the internet, and even though I'm in Brooklyn, the buzziest of New York City's boroughs, and New York is certainly one of the buzziest cities in America, my neighborhood is not, you can't find a lot by using traditional like Google Maps and stuff, because I don't know, the owners forget to register or whatever. Like, just, things don't always come up. But I found a place called Terra, and they had a traditional breakfast. It was very good. And I had my eggs over easy, really good sausage, beautifully prepared little crispy home fries, a little side salad, and a cup of coffee. Traditional stuff. It was $24 with tax and tip, but that's what things cost now.
Okay.
And in my neighborhood, often because there are so many Europeans, there's a service charge added. So you got to read the receipt to figure out if you need to tip extra or not. In this case, I did not need to tip extra. I left a change, but they'd already included a service charge. But anyway, another thing I noticed on the menu is a dish that I'm seeing with increasing frequency called eggs in purgatory. You familiar with it? It's an Italian, sort of like shakshuka, but Italian. It's baked eggs in tomato sauce. And I just thought it was interesting to see that, because I'm seeing it in a lot of places.
Was it spicy? Purgatory sounds spicy, but maybe.
Yeah, well, I didn't order it. I had the other thing. But because sometimes you don't want the trendiest thing on the menu. You just want breakfast.
Right.
But it said a mild tomato sauce. So I don't know. I'll have to go back there and try some other time. But I actually, a couple weeks ago in my column, New on the Menu in Restaurant Hospitality, I featured 2 eggs in purgatory because I happened to have 2 of them. One was a baked eggs dish. I think they just called it baked eggs at Layla in the Brooklyn neighborhood of Williamsburg, very, very, very far away from where I am in Sheepshead Bay, the opposite side of Brooklyn. And then another one from, I don't remember the restaurant, one of the ones by Dante de Magistris, who's an Italian-American chef in Boston. And he had eggs in purgatory too. In this case, it's served with pasta.
Interesting.
So,
wow.
Tomatoey pasta. So eggs
might be the new shakshuka.
That's what I'm saying. Audience, maybe do some research of eggs in purgatory. Change the name if you want to be like eggs in hell or something, to excite Gen Z. You could do that. Have you noticed that a lot of the virtual restaurants that are kind of going away, especially if there's chicken involved, they like to put ass in the name? It's like big ass chicken, ass chicken, chicken ass. And I don't, that doesn't appeal to me when I'm reading a menu. Maybe it does.
No, definitely not. But I guess it's sort of like an expression for something that's very large portion.
No.
No?
Yes, sure. If you add ass to something as an adjective, that means more.
I had a big ass cast on my arm before I got this one today. And so we both had a week of accidents or, mishaps. And I actually hurt my finger and pulled the tendon and broke it a little bit. So I had to get a little bit of surgery. And now I have this on around my arm. So It is my right hand, which makes it a little difficult to eat and drink, but I'm managing with my left hand. And I've actually gotten a chance to go to a couple of restaurants with this
Oh,
contraption on.
I mean, you do look a little bit like a cyborg. That's a heck of a cast you got.
Yeah. Well, this is just a splint, so it's removable.
It's quite elegant, really. I like the color.
It is. It's very nice. I got to choose the gray.
Ah,
So
very good.
I thought that was a fashion forward statement.
Well done.
But I actually was out on the end of Long Island this weekend in the Hamptons, Montauk area. And we went out for happy hour, which, it sounded like it would be a really good happy hour. And it turned out to be a really good one because the drinks were about $12 and they made all different kinds of margaritas that were actually good. And they had an enormous amount of appetizers that you could get. And it was kind of like a multicultural menu. They had like chicken pot stickers, and then they had a Mediterranean platter with hummus and spicy olives on it and some pita breads. And then they had nachos with chicken and guacamole, but it was all prepared very nicely. It wasn't like sloppy, and sort of, it looked more elegant than regular bar food.
So they had quite a competent kitchen. Sounds like all the food was really good.
Yeah.
And multicultural. That does, in fact, remind me of the dinner I had with my friends.
That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter what the origins are. Nobody's going for a particular theme.
Right.
They're, serving food that they like to cook or that, their customers like to eat.
Mm-hmm.
And, the particular anthropology of that dish is not as important as that it tastes good and is fun to eat.
And plus we had mussels because mussels are very Long Island ocean community. So although they're probably farm mussels, I don't think they dug them up from the beach, but they were very good too.
I don't know if they farm mussels in New Zealand. In New Zealand. That's the last place I saw a mussel farm was in New Zealand. But I don't know if they farm them on Long Island. But
no, I don't think they farm them there. But I'm sure that they sourced farmed mussels because I don't think anyone, digs them up anymore.
Right. Yeah, I don't think so either. And they're probably cultivated somewhere in the Northeast.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, certainly Long Island has a lot of oysters today.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I love oysters, but the people I was with weren't in the mood for raw oysters. So I'll have to find some friends who are.
I respect that.
Yeah.
So were they sort of the traditional mussels with garlic and wine sauce? Or
yeah. And it's called Springs Tavern. So it's like a neighborhood kind of place that the locals actually go to, which is hard to find out there. But it was really quite good.
Yeah, and that traditional mussels with the garlic and the white wine is it's wonderful. I also like what's been popular for a long time, curried mussels.
Mm-hmm.
Also great.
Yeah, very good.
Big, thick sourdough toast.
I also had a trip down to Atlanta earlier this week, and I visited Moe's Southwest Kitchen, their test kitchen there. And they're introducing all these new flavors, focusing on their proteins, but changing the flavor profiles of the proteins. And although it's called Moe's Southwest, they actually were trying out flavors like chili crisp and a few Indian flavors, which I thought was really interesting. And they were actually quite good, but also spicy. So I think, I think everyone thinks the spice tolerance of America is much higher than it used to be.
Yeah, and I think they're right.
Yeah.
But and it's interesting that it's chili crisp and Indian because Twin Peaks just introduced flatbreads, chili crisp and Indian, and chicken tikka specifically, and they have tikka and chili crisp sauces for their wings now.
I know. So, I think chili crisp is the next hot honey, maybe.
Maybe. And I mean, it's similar. It's just not as sweet and a little bit more complex. In fact, so I took a bus from Chinatown to Boston to get to Boston because it's a cheap way to do it.
Yeah.
And there was a little convenience store next to the bus stop, and they had this whole thing of Szechuan peppercorns for like $2.25. So
wow.
I bought that. Yeah, exactly. So I bought that and took it with me to Boston and just kept it in my bag.
Cool.
So now I assume they're going to be good Szechuan peppercorns.
Yeah.
It's Chinatown, and they don't play in Chinatown when it comes to Szechuan peppercorns. So,
At most, we all learned how to roll our own burritos, which takes a lot of skill. I always thought it was, the way I did it myself was totally wrong and kind of falling apart. The way they teach you is to make it really tight. So I think I have it down, even though I had like a finger that was not operating correctly. I was able to roll a burrito. So
good
that,
job.
yeah,
You want them to be pretty tight.
definitely.
I know at another much smaller burrito chain, Dos Toros, they like to make them look sort of like missiles. They like them to be like really thinner and more compact than the more traditional mission style burritos that we see at Moe's Southwest Grill and Chipotle and Qdoba.
Right. Yeah, I kind of like them less filled and just tightly rolled. I think it's easier to eat that way.
For sure. When I was growing up in Colorado, burritos didn't have rice. That wasn't the custom. They just had beans and some kind of meat and cheese. They were much smaller, less of a caloric and emotional investment than the burritos are today.
Well, I also had a chance to speak with the new culinary VP at California Pizza Kitchen.
Oh.
And I have a few clips to play that we, from our interview.
What's the name of the new chef?
His name, well, he's actually been there. I thought he was new, but he's actually been there for 15 years. He worked under Brian Sullivan. His name
is Red Robin.
Right. So he was like the sous chef under Brian Sullivan, and then he got promoted to that position. So his name is Paul Shabowski, and I had a chance to talk to him, and he was very interesting. He talked they've kind of streamlined their menu recently, and he talked a little bit about that and what they're focusing on now at California Pizza Kitchen. I mean, it's been around, the concept has been around for a long, long time. And some of, we talked about some of the favorites of mine that are no longer on the menu, but they have a chance to come back. So
I enjoy their Kung Pao spaghetti.
Well, I always like the Chinese chicken salad, but that's off the menu right now. So
they've been cutting edge with pizza innovation in particular for decades.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And talking about multicultural, I mean, they introduced, like Chinese flavors to pizza and barbecue flavors to pizza. So they were really forerunners.
20 years ago. They really, yeah.
When I first started 15 years ago, we started work on the butter cake, and it's our number one selling dessert by far. I mean, that was such a proud moment. It took us quite a long time, almost a year to develop that. And it's our number one dessert. But I've also been privileged to work on main plates. Like we brought a steak to the menu at one point. We have a beautiful cedar plank salmon that's on the menu right now. I've also worked on small plates and appetizers. I've worked on cauliflower crust, which has been a big hit for us. And we incorporated that in our menu years ago. So to be able to work on all of that has been great. I've also worked on our beverage program and streamlined that. And again, just continue to innovate.
It's funny that he mentioned cedar plank salmon, because I think if people put that on the menu now, an entire generation would think that it's a new invention because it's been gone for so long. But, it was huge. 20 years ago, every place had cedar plank.
Right. I used to actually cook it a lot.
Sure, yes.
I haven't done that recently, but.
Do you have cedar plank still?
Well, I had a plank, and then we had an outdoor barbecue, and so if you put it on the plank, it produced the same effect.
That's cool.
Yeah, definitely. But it's interesting that, a dessert is like one of their best sellers. What you wouldn't think of going to California Pizza Kitchen for dessert, but
it's certainly not for butter cake.
No,
but great. And obviously, I and everyone else on earth likes butter cake. It's delicious. I hope I get I hope I get feedback from an audience that doesn't like butter cake.
Oh, I love it. I mean, I love anything with butter in it. I mean,
Sure.
so, but it's interesting what they did with the beverage program, because they used to have like a huge cocktail list, and they would make each cocktail separately, and and it just took so much labor. And now they batch certain combinations, and they all have like a base. They might have 5 bases, and then they vary the garnishes, and they vary, some of the mixers, and it turns out a lot of different kinds of cocktails with much less labor.
And they're still delicious. Like, it's not like they're I'm sure batching them a week in advance.
Oh, no, they make them fresh.
Yeah.
He was very. So then he talked a little bit about some of the items that they can never take off the menu, including the butter cake, but there were others.
Well, the barbecue chicken pizza we will never take off. I mean, we created that pizza. If anybody else says they did, they're lying to you, because that was us in 1985. That was on our original menu, and we were the innovators of that. Sadly, the Chinese chicken salad we did take off. We took that off probably 4 or 5 years ago, but we get a lot of people that ask for these items back. So, when we take them off, it doesn't mean we're going to take them off forever. If people really like them and they talk about it, we'll put them back. And a great example is our tostada pizza. We took that off about 1.5 years ago because it is a really innovative, creative pizza, but it's not one of the best sellers, to be honest with you. But the people that love it, they love it, and they come into CPK just for it. And we've seen people post on social saying, listen, I don't care about all the new innovation. When you bring the tostada back, we'll start listening. And when we get that, we definitely start bringing things back. So the tostada we brought back for a limited time earlier this year, and it was such a big hit again that we've kept it on the menu. So, but like I said, we bring back some of those classic items too, and it's really important because our heritage is so important to us, and we've really put everything on a pizza crust. So we've got Pizza Month coming up, and we're going to bring a classic back, and we're going to bring back a new innovative pizza. So
yeah, so he also talked about some of the global flavors that they are introducing. I mean, they've always been like pioneers in putting global flavors on pizzas and in their salad, but I think they're doing even more now.
That's one of the exciting parts about California Pizza Kitchen. Not only do we do Asian food, we do Italian food, we do Mediterranean food, we do Mexican, we do Spanish, we do it all. We love to see what people are excited about, and we like to make it approachable. That's one of the great things about CPK is that we'll focus on getting those traditional flavors down, and we'll make it approachable for somebody who might not really want to dive in, but want to kind of dip their foot in and get a taste. And I think that's what we do really well. But I'm never one to be pigeonholed. One of the things when I was, working the line in the restaurants is, you would work one station, and that's fine when you learn the station. But once you've kind of mastered it, you want to do something else. And that's one of the things I love about California Pizza Kitchen is we can do all of those flavors, and we do all that stuff. We're playing with an Indian tandoori style pizza that we're excited about. We have a Mediterranean pizza that we're working on. We have a birria pizza that we tested this year. So the sky's the limit. And that's one of the greatest parts of this brand.
I don't think I've seen birria pizza yet. That's interesting.
No.
Because you'd think we would have done it by now. Because, obviously, as you know, one of the biggest trends is like find a different flavor, put it on something familiar. So, it goes on a burger or pizza.
Right.
Try it. And birria has been everywhere. But interestingly, not on pizza yet. So that I've seen. So, and people like dipping pizza. They dip it in ranch dressing everywhere except for New York City. So, that's a thing. Why not also dip it in birria consomme?
Yeah, no, birria makes a lot of sense. I mean, at Moe's, we even had some new birria items that they're introducing. They had put birria on the menu last year and as a limited time offer, and they're bringing it back. But it seems to be something that still has legs, and it isn't just, it isn't going the way of some other preparations.
Yeah, it's got some time on it yet, I think.
Yeah. And speaking of flavors that have legs, I mean, he talks about the Nashville hot pizza, and it's kind of their take on the whole sweet, spicy, sweet heat trend that we sometimes call spicy. And
You call it spicy. I don't. In fact,
no,
that's the first time I've said that word. Let's call it sweet and spicy.
I mean, we try not to we don't use it on, in stories, but I just use it
It's okay. Yeah, people understand it.
as an expression.
It's so simple, right? And that's part of the cool part of the pizza is it's really simple. And sometimes the simplest things are the best. But this pizza, it's our hand stretched dough, okay? And we add our ranchito sauce on the bottom, and that's our ranch dressing that we make in house, and we mix it with Cholula, and we call it ranchito. We've been making that for, oh my gosh, over 30 years. And our ranch dressing is something that I am a huge fan of. I really love it so much. So that's kind of our foundation, and that's kind of a little spicy. It's starting the spicy aspect to the pizza. And then we top it with some shredded mozz and also some fresh mozz. The two of them together are great. The shredded mozz gives us great coverage, and the fresh mozz kind of pools. So you get this great cheese pull. And then we have this awesome technique to bread the chicken. We take our chicken breast and we cut it into long strips, and then we bread it with a dry and a wet dredge, and we use our hands to kind of macerate it in the flour on the last go through, and that creates this really super extra crispy crust on the chicken. And that's it. We bake that. Okay, so simple, but the most important part is all of the chicken that's on this pizza, okay? And then when it comes out of the oven, we have our seasoning blend that's got the spice to it. It's got the heat, and we shake that over the pizza, and it adds this beautiful red hue to it, and it adds all this flavor. And then we top it with pickles and Mike's extra hot honey. And it really tastes like you're eating a Nashville style hot crispy chicken sandwich. And the Mike's the Mike's hot honey just elevates it, and it takes it to another level. It's like almost too spicy, but then the sweetness of the honey brings you back down.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I just can't believe how ubiquitous Mike's hot honey is in chain restaurants. It's quite something. It's great for Mike.
Yeah, congratulations to him. And it's not like sweet and spicy are new. Like, it's been around forever. And often, like in Thai cooking is some of the spiciest on the planet. Most dishes have a little sugar in them. Not enough to really notice, but they use it to bring all the flavors together. Sugar is great for it. And I mean, it's a pretty common practice to have a little bit of sweetness.
Well, even like General Chow's chicken. I mean, that's sort of the same principles.
Yeah, it's quite sweet and
quite sweet.
Yeah,
I don't think it's as well balanced as some of the dishes coming out now that are sweet and hot. But
right, and that's a total Chinese American dish.
Yeah, definitely. So, Paul actually got his start at craft. I mean, he worked in fine dining and trained in culinary school, but he actually worked at Kraft Foods for many years. And he worked on developing California Pizza's frozen pizzas. And so that's kind of where they found him and asked him to come over. So now they're doing, Nestle bought the frozen pizza division of Kraft, I guess a couple of years ago. And so now he's developing, he's working with Nestle to develop some of the frozen pizzas. So that's real. I mean, even though he's still at California Pizza Kitchen, I mean, they're sort of partners on these new frozen pizzas. So he talks a bit about that.
For sure, our barbecue is. We have our Sicilian. We have a pepperoni. And there's a roasted garlic chicken on the frozen line. We're not doing one in the restaurant, but we could easily make that for you if you ask for one. But what I'm really proud of is the cauliflower crust. So we developed our cauliflower crust with a company called Venice Bakery about 8 years ago plus. And we really focused on making sure that we got cauliflower right. And it's something that I'm really proud of that I got to work on. And our partners at Nestle are buying basically the same crust from the same company. And you can get that in the freezer section as well.
Yeah. So they were kind of the pioneers of cauliflower crust in the chain restaurant world anyway. But yeah.
I'm pro cauliflower. I think the more fiber we can get in our diet, the better.
Definitely.
I mean, I'm pro gluten. I'm not anti-carb, but most people need more fiber.
Yeah.
So by all means.
Yeah. Luckily, I can eat gluten because I tried a gluten-free wrap at the airport earlier this week, and it was really bad. So,
yeah, I mean, some of that stuff is getting better, but it's weird. I'll go ahead and say weird. How when one particular medical condition gets attention, people decide that the fact that some people are allergic to it means it's bad for everybody, which is false. Like gluten's a protein; it's good for you,
right.
Unless you have celiac disease, and then you definitely should never, ever, ever go near it. But otherwise, gluten's great.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people think they are healthier not eating gluten, but it's really only for people who have celiac disease or gluten sensitivities. So.
Right. I mean, if in cutting back on their gluten, they're cutting back on carbohydrates and therefore probably cutting back on calories, then maybe it's healthier for you. Maybe. And also, if you feel healthier, then you are healthier because, the placebo effect is strong.
Definitely. So finally, the last clip I'm going to play is how they're changing their sourcing strategies and operations in the last year and a half or so.
Oh, that's interesting.
I don't know. I mean, I appreciate Detroit style, but I don't know if that's really our thing. I mean, it's a heavier pizza. I'll never say no because who knows? We might. We might do a different play on a Detroit style pizza. But it's kind of like, I don't know, if we did a New York style pizza, would that make sense? I don't know. We've talked about it. Trust me when I say we've talked about it. But we don't have any Detroit style pizzas slated right now in the repertoire.
So you did mention, a little bit about your teams and your operations. So have you changed anything about sourcing or execution or cooking techniques in the last in the last year and a half, I guess, since you've been?
Yeah. I mean, there's been a lot going on in the last year and a half. And, you've heard about all the challenges in the restaurant industry, Have we changed how we do sourcing? For sure. In the past, we probably would have done a lot more custom products, with our partners, our supplier partners. Those we're kind of staying away from right now unless we realize that that's going to be a really strong idea. We do have, we had 6 LTO windows this year, so they're relatively short windows. So we're pretty careful with what we're bringing in. So that's one for sure. Number 2, labor. I bet you talk about that on your show all the time, right?
Oh,
yeah. The L word. I hate talking about it, but it's something that we need to deal with, right? So when we're creating a new dish at California Pizza Kitchen, we try to keep it as simple as possible. If I'm roasting something in the pizza oven, it's salt, pepper, and California olive oil. Like, it's straightforward, and then we'll incorporate other flavors later. We look at things differently. We keep things as simple as possible, and we try to present them in an elevated way. And, we've got a lot of fresh produce in California. We've got a lot of great ingredients. There's a lot of great innovation out here. So we try and incorporate that into everything that we do as well. So
makes sense. Well, and simplicity is usually better anyway. I mean, it can make the food taste less sort of muddled and confusing if you're using good ingredients. I mean, cutting corners never works. I've never heard of a restaurant, big or small, say, well, yeah, so what we did is we cut corners and we cheapened out, and then it turned everything around. I've never heard that happen. That is not a successful strategy. But doing things better in a more elegant way, in a way that will allows you to execute more efficiently, that means your food will taste better, your customers will notice and will be happy. And I also respect that, he's not immediately jumping on, Detroit style pizza or whatever the other time.
Right.
Although,
Yeah, it's a question I had asked previously, and I guess I didn't realize it was on this clip, but because it just seems to be catching on in New York right now. And so I was just wondering if it was catching on in other parts of the country.
I mean, I think it is, but that doesn't mean that every chain has to do it, especially one that already has an established customer base.
Right. I mean, they kind of created California style pizza, which is like what I consider like an artisanal kind of pizza with a flat crust.
Yeah, them and Wolfgang Puck got all right with that. But it reminds me of my bar, which I'm sure I've mentioned before, called Logan's Run. It's in Park Slope in Brooklyn, and it's just a delightful place. And they didn't have an espresso martini, but the demand was so high. People kept coming in saying, I want an espresso martini, that they bought, the correct espresso liqueur that is often used to make an espresso martini. And they make one. And they charge more for it because it costs more to make. Their cocktails are usually around $11-12, and their espresso martini is $14, which is still very, very cheap for New York.
Oh, definitely reasonable. Yeah.
So sometimes you got to adjust, and sometimes not every place needs to have the Detroit style pizza.
Well, yeah, it was interesting to talk with Paul and see where CPK is going and
absolutely
what's happening the rest of the week, Brett.
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure stuff is going on, and I'll, once I sort of dig myself out from the weekend, I'll look into what I'm doing. But I'm sure I'll have many adventures to share next week, and as well as a guest of my own.
Great.
That I will feature clips from, and we'll once again have a nice and scintillating conversation.
I'm sure we will. I think I might try Wonder this week because I can't cook too well with one hand. So, I've been really curious about it for a while. That's the company that curates a number of restaurants into one platform, I guess. And they're, different chefs in New York that contribute to it. And it sounds like the food is pretty good.
I just got an email from them today saying that they've added Zebra Pie to their roster. That's a much beloved Thai restaurant in Queens that
great.
I enjoyed long ago. I haven't been in a while. Once they got, I think, a 3-star review in the New York Times, it became too much of a hassle to go. And I don't know that they were able to maintain their sort of standards of really serving Thai food, because once you, get the masses come in and they want, pad Thai, not that much else, it's harder. But maybe this is an opportunity now that they're at Wonder for me to revisit the idea.
Yeah, cool. Well, we'll compare notes.
Yes.
So thanks for joining us. And until next week, we'll see you then.
Take care, everybody.
Control the kitchen chaos and streamline your back of house operations with Restaurant Technologies. Restaurant Technologies' total oil management solution is the end-to-end automated oil management system that delivers, filters, monitors, and recycles your cooking oil, taking the dirtiest job out of the kitchen and lets your employees focus on more important tasks. The total oil management solution helps prevent the burns, spills, slips, and falls that come with traditional oil management. Restaurant Technologies gives you and your employees peace of mind among the chaos of a commercial kitchen and can maximize efficiency for your business. And no upfront cost. Learn more about Restaurant Technologies and all the solutions they offer by visiting rti-inc.com or call 888-796-4997.